Hello, welcome to Sovereign Magazine Show, a transformational experience where conscious conversations meet embodied wisdom. Each episode invites visionary healers, thought leaders, and change makers to share their journeys of awakening, offering listeners practical tools and soul-stirring insights to reclaim their inner authority. Today, we have back Cassandra Ares, who is going to talk about leadership self-perception. And we're actually going to be talking about our leadership styles together. If you missed the intro to energetic leadership, especially if you need an internal blueprint, go back and listen to episode 1 on our channel, as it is really setting the foundation for our entire seasonal episodes. All right, Cass, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey. Yeah, absolutely. I work in the corporate world. I am a corporate queen by day and also a spiritual intuitive during the day, but in my bio it says by night as well. So I tend to lead. My leadership looks like I bring a lot of humor to things. I like to keep things light, but also very direct and compassionate at the same time. I really, really focus on making sure that women feel liberated in their own human vessel. And sort of that's where internal was born. So I feel like we
Hmm.
can probably kick it off with that. Um,
All right. So
yeah.
talk about self-perception.
Yeah, so internal, as we mentioned in the first episode, is really this. I don't know why the French word is coming to mind, but this mélange, right? This mixture, if you will, of the numerology that I'm certified in, along with leadership frameworks that we have been taught, and sort of taking the pieces that I have seen and know intuitively work in general or allow for expansion to happen for individuals. And so with that internal framework or internal energetic blueprint that each and every single one of us have, we have 8 different, I'll call them placements or categories within that blueprint overall. And the first one that we're going to talk about is leadership self-perception. So if you're very like in the know with different types of numerology, the leadership self-perception is very much associated to the soul. I'm not going to assign numbers to this. Nicole and I both have our own sort of uh, category that we fall into. There is a specific name I've given to all of these, but we're going to veer away from the numbers because it's not just numerology, it's bigger than that. And it's really about internal leadership. So, leadership self perception, it represents how we see ourselves at the core, not how others see us, not our strategy, um, not even necessarily our skill set, right? It's this internal lens through which you or I experience ourselves or yourself as a leader. And so the soul being the core of our being, right? It's sort of this energetic springboard for us in which we take action. And it's the foundation that everything's sort of built upon. So that's kind of why we're starting here. So when we talk about leadership, specific to sort of this self-perception energy, this is how you initiate. This is how you believe that you lead. This is how you lead confidently in whatever way that feels for you. And this is also how and where you secretly doubt yourself. So that's the lens that we're sort of taking here. Um, it's the identity that we each operate from. And there's an important nuance here, right? So this leadership self-perception energy, it's it really starts off in our human journey in this lifetime as a challenge, meaning that we often experience it through its distortions versus the strengths to start. And so Nicole's nodding her head here because I asked her to sort of look through all of this detail for her specifics and think about her life as a whole and where this might land. But before we get there, this
Mhm.
can look like overcompensating. It can look like playing small. It can look like misreading your own decisions and what you've actually said. It's misreading your own power. It could be projecting your insecurities onto other people. So that is all encompassing, and some examples of what that might mean. Um, I have a couple other notes I wanted to share because our self-perception is really everything, right? If you believe you're decisive, you act decisively. If you believe you're creative, you innovate. If you believe you're uncertain, you hesitate, right? And so on and so forth. So this placement shapes that tone of leadership within yourself before you even open your mouth. Again, we're thinking internal, self-perception. This is where we land. This can also influence how we handle authority and how we respond to pressure. It can also help you
Mhm.
deal or explain how you deal with visibility, or how safe you feel, like taking up space. Um, and when you're aligned, the self-perception, it becomes your leadership superpower. It's where everything sort of initiates, like I said before. But when you're misaligned, it becomes your biggest internal saboteur. So just something to be aware of sort of as we talk through. I think Nicole's probably going to have some pretty awesome examples, but this is really the belief that sets the energetic ceiling for everything that you create. And again, this is leadership in life, regardless of what season you're in, if you're in corporate, if you're just thinking about your own business, if you're thinking about family, leadership, self-perception, regardless, this energy is what you carry through in every leadership position you hold in your life. Now, with that said, I'd love to give a little introduction to Nicole's sort of like her, I don't want to call it a label, but her tagline for the type of leadership self-perception that she has. And so she is an expressive motivator. She sees herself as the voice in the
Mhm.
room, energetic, inspiring, and fluent in what others feel, but probably won't say. Nicole, you lead through connection and expression. And when you dim your truth to stay likable, your leadership gets fuzzy. I love when you pop your
Yep.
head to things. I can't wait to get real. So, oh, say the real thing. You're here to move people, not manage impressions. So, in this blueprint, that's sort of like the small, very surface level thing that we're talking about. But Nicole, I would love to hear sort of as I explained your specific energy for your self-perception,
Yeah.
what came to light.
This is so spot on. It's kind of eerie. I'm like, did you like go internally and read some DNA or something? Um, so I'm going to only specifically talk about me and sovereign versus my corporate roles because I feel like who I am now is different than what I experienced then. And if we need to go back into some past stuff, I'm more than willing. But this particular leadership description is so spot on. I always say I built Sovereign to uplift women, to uplift people in general, to help shift the collective. I am your biggest cheerleader. All I want to do all day long is lift you up in some way and get you visible. I don't want to do it for myself. That's not part of who I am. I'm not that type of person to kind of toot my own horn and,
You're not.
it's just not in me, right? But here's the thing. There is this fine line for me between how giving I am and if I overgive and then I'm not receiving back what I would believe would be reciprocal, then that's when my leadership gets fuzzy. And I'll give you an example. Here at Sovereign, we have no set days, no set hours. You make your own schedule. As long as everything's turned in on time, great. We have 9.5 weeks of vacation, paid vacation every year, and unlimited sick leave, paid leave. Sounds great, right? Well, we had one person at one time, a long time ago, who would always complain about her schedule. And I'm like, but you make your schedule? You know what I'm saying? Like, I have no control over that. So, like, change your schedule. Like, I'm not a micromanager. I am full-heartedly, you do your work. I don't really want to know about it. Just turn your stuff in on time. I don't want to do anything. And it got to a point where it just was not working. Like, there was so much freedom. I don't know what the mismatch was. And so, unfortunately, we had to part ways. But my leadership became fuzzy because I was trying to like move and shake to fit her needs and
Mm,
complaints, if you will, about her schedule. But I became more fuzzy in my leadership style because I was trying to be likable, right? Instead of just
yeah.
saying, like, look, this is how it is. Don't work between these hours or whatever. It just was not working. And so I do love to move people and motivate them. So I also attract people who need a lot of help. So I've noticed that's my downfall. So now when I hire, I've since hired many since then. I look at a completely different lens through a completely different lens. They don't get a job description. I look at their human design. I have them answer questions about themselves that nobody else would ask in an interview because I truly want to know who they are as a person
Hmm.
first.
Yep.
Then I build a job description around who they are as a person. So that's where I think that I don't want to manage your impressions of things. I want to really move you as a person to grow. So I think you're spot on.
What I think is fascinating too, and I don't want to go into too much depth, but um, the opposite of this, the relational dynamics that we will talk about in an episode, sort of like your relationship to people. And so the way that you speak about that is also with forgiveness lives in that, right? But architecture of some type also lives in that. So when you're speaking, I'm seeing more of that. Whereas internally, I love that you shared that you were getting fuzzy in your leadership, and it was because of that power dynamic. So, folks with this specific soul and leadership self-perception, um, when they land here energetically, usually a power dynamic is very much at play. So in other instances, right, not of course with Sovereign Magazine, but some of my clients have this placement, and so this can look like, again, like overcompensating just to be liked by
Hmm.
a manager or someone up in the
Yep.
hierarchy, as we like to call it, right?
Yep.
Or it could
Hmm.
be that they overexert their power and they have to be the loudest person in the room with their creative ideas because, oh, like that's what they do well. But with this misalignment and this mismatch, it can be overbearing and it can feel like an
Hmm.
expression of extreme power to other people because you feel like your voice
Hmm.
isn't being heard enough. So it's just really, really
Hmm.
interesting the way that you went into that and how you shared that. So thank you very much. Um, I, on the other hand, have a different self-leadership, perspective. Um, it's very much, well, the way that I call it in the blueprint is the compassionate anchor. But this type of energy is very much about advocacy, is very much justice oriented, is very much about the vision that could be and really pushing for the collective to feel equal. Now, there is some sense of equality also, Nicole, with your specific self-perception
Hmm.
and that's seen as well. I mean, we could go into examples of that as, for you. But equality in decisions very much then leads
Yes.
into that type of energy as well. Um,
Hmm.
Whereas I don't necessarily want to be in front of the room all the time. I'm constantly observing and then picturing what could be. So the way that I use my intuition all the time, like it's always been very strong with me. I grew up in a household that literally said, "Oh, you're seeing things or whatever, you're feeling this way. Great, keep going." versus, unfortunately, what a lot of us end up having to deal with. But um, justice and empathy has always been something that is very, very much at the forefront. And I think why I lead the way that I do and servant leadership is so important to me because of that. Um, Oftentimes I see outcomes before others do, right? Because it's that sort of like visionary piece. And I'm always looking for like, okay, what could be? What could be? Um, I make a lot of long range decisions that end up being the right thing because, again, I have tapped into all of this. Uh, Calm under pressure. Like, I think there's, your whole blueprint sort of leads into where your strengths lie in these types of situations. Um, it also could be ADHD, how we're just so good at like crisis. I'm
Yes.
sure there's
Yes,
there's
both
pieces
of
of the
us.
energy field that lead into that as well. Um,
Uh,
but it took me a long time to perceive myself as truly intuitive because what I did a lot of was looking for external validation for who I was,
mhm.
especially when I was younger. And
Yeah.
so I would overthink a lot of the decisions that I made. I would spiral a lot, which honestly, in postpartum, I'm trying to lead my daughter. I'm trying to lead myself out of this, whole season. And spiraling is like worst case scenario, spiraling constantly,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
As I know a lot of women who go through postpartum anxiety and depression feel, right? So again, this is like leadership in any season, in any part of your life. And then control and overprotection is huge with this soul six. I know I wasn't going to mention the numbers, but this compassionate anchor. If we see injustice, and then we start to spiral because we've shut off our intuition or we can't see what's going to come next. All of a sudden, we have to control everything that happens. And so, tendency to, I've never micromanaged, but I've seen folks who also have displacement who, when they are feeling anxious about something and they can't have any, they don't have any idea of where this might go or what decisions might be made, and they feel like it's very external to them. All of a sudden, they're like, well, what can I control? I'm not going to delegate this task because I don't trust anybody else to do this,
Hmm.
those types of things. Um, the biggest thing in my life that I've really had to work on, though, this is my leadership self-perception comes from I cannot try to save everyone. That is my biggest pitfall. It happens in corporate where I speak up for people and then they're like, "Why did you do that?" Like I can stand up for myself in my own way. Like there's, now with the world the way that it is, it's like I'm almost feeling guilty that I can't save everyone, but that's not the truth, right? It's not like Cass is going to ride in on her, black stallion and save everyone from the powers that be, right? That's just not going to happen. But that is a challenge that I still work through. Yeah. Am I
Hmm.
intuitive as shit? Absolutely. Like I've worked on that. I've moved through the challenge. And the whole idea of this blueprint is really to expand into the strength of this energy, which everyone has the capacity to do. They just have to put in the work and they have to want to. So,
Hmm. Hmm. Do you have the other six types
yeah,
or
I do
perception?
actually. Let me
Yeah, just so that people can hear, you don't have to give descriptions, but just so that people can hear the other names. And also, I mean, I'm just curious, is there like some sort of like way that people can find out their type?
So other than reaching out to me right now, because I have all of this in like Google Docs and eventually want to write a book, just add the to-do list things.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I'm hoping to put together like an easy way to figure out what your initial,
Like a
blueprint
quiz?
is that doesn't need me hovering.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, okay. I won't go into too much detail because we could be here all day, but here are the other sort of placements. There's the bold initiator. So this person
Okay.
sees like themselves as a spark. They're wired to lead. They're really wired to initiate things. Like this
Okay.
energy is all about initiation and inspiring others with their decisiveness on that initiation. There's the relational diplomat. They really lead through empathy, through feeling, emotional intelligence, genuine care. Um, they're oftentimes like the glue that holds things together. Very, very much so through connection and expression. Then there's the stabilizing architect. And these are the ones that keep the wheels turning, but in a way,
Hmm.
through building trust that creates certain structure. And then too much rigidity for these folks literally leads to stifling growth. Um, the change agent is all about folks who bring motion. They tend to, if they're misaligned, they tend to learn a lot of lessons that are the same lesson over and over again with the way that they lead or the way that they see themselves. But the opposite of that is like being able to manifest anything that they want. So it's either a lesson or expansion. Um, and they're just brilliant in dynamic environments. The compassionate anchor, which is what I just went through. Um, oh, I totally skipped over yours, which was the expressive motivator, but we've talked about that. The insightful strategist, and they really lead from depth. They notice what others miss. They think, uh, they ask questions that sort of like shift everything, and they can also architect anything in the moment, right? So I talked about one of your placements having architecture within relationships. This is just architecting in the way that they lead.
Okay.
Um, they say what they see. Like that's the biggest thing. They're not afraid to do that. The structural visionary. So this is where they lead through power that's been earned, not imposed. They think long term, um, and people just trust them to get it done. These individuals know like they can just turn it on. They need more energy to do what they need to do. They literally take a breath and it is so. I'm so jealous of these folks. Um, the
I feel like I
purpose-driven
have little
leader.
pieces. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like I have little pieces of each of these.
So I'll continue to go through, but what I want to say is everyone has these energetics. The difference is that the ones that are identified in your blueprint are more polarizing versus neutral. We all have
Mm.
this. It's just what
Okay.
you, again, the belief that I have is that you chose the polarizing energies that you have decided to bring forth into this life. So for
Got
you,
it.
this whole expressive motivator type of energy is what you have chosen to really identify
Yep.
with and to
Yes.
lead
Okay.
from like this soul sort of energy. Does that make sense?
Okay. That makes more sense. Yes, because I was like, wait, I have that too, and I have that too. Okay, but yes, no, that
Yes,
makes sense. It's
probably
my,
should have
my more
mentioned that.
dominant.
I'm gonna remember that for the next episode. You mark my words.
Okay.
We're gonna remember to do that in the beginning. Hey, bud, reminder. Um, cool. So the purpose-driven leader, they lead with heart and high vision. This is a very like they know that they're graceful, that they don't have to say a lot, and the impact is felt. It's not like they have to,
Mm.
craft this whole big thing. They literally just it's like mic drop with one sentence all the time. Um, they carry deep emotional wisdom, but they have to remember not to over caretake because they
Mhm.
see the we in everything that they do and they want to take care of everyone as well. So they just have to be very careful about that. The trusted authority. This is like radiance bottled. Like, you enter a room and everybody knows you've entered that room and they're hanging on every word and they want to learn everything about you. And you know this, like, you know that your leadership is about telling the stories of where you've been in a way that is accepting and true to you. Um, and then the final is the resonant leader. And this person doesn't force leadership, they literally just are leadership. And it's not in a humble way. I'm trying to think of anyone that really embodies this, but it's just like their presence is power. They're not very verbose. They always like they love to learn. They love to learn. And they either have a mission and they're so like in tune with that mission because it's like this higher, almost spiritual leadership, or they're debilitated by it, which is
Mm-hmm.
also very
Mm,
interesting.
interesting.
So those are the 11 sort of like that map back again to numerology and some of this leadership framework stuff. I won't go into all the nitty-gritty details about it, but yeah, I mean, you should see yourself in all of this, in
I
pieces of
do for
this, because
sure.
we have all of these energetics. It's again just what you chose to come here with that more polarizing lens.
Okay. Do you have any parting words about our leadership self-perception? I know that next time we're going to be talking about leadership trajectory.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I had a couple questions, and maybe I'll just,
You can ask them.
I'm trying to see where I put them. I think I don't know where they are, and so we're not gonna waste time trying to look for them. But I think it would be interesting if folks sort of whether solo or from a team perspective sort of look at themselves and think about, okay, when I know I have to start something, how do I initiate that? Right? So
Mm,
like even from the how do I think about it? How do I, like, what does my body do in that moment? Where do I feel it in my body? What helps me sort of move through that? What beliefs,
mhm.
what narratives? Like just think about all of those items about you. And then what I would say is you write all of that down and you say, okay, read that back and then tell yourself where you doubt yourself in that, in any of it,
Yeah.
because
I can
that's
give
just a
you an
reflection
example.
back. Yeah.
I can give you an example back to the original person that I was speaking about. Her preference for receiving things was to have everything mapped out, spreadsheets, dates, deadlines, all this stuff. And I realize that's not how I work. I get clarity in the doing. So I have the idea, I put the idea out there, and I have no idea how it's going to manifest until I start building it. Literally everything I have built in Sovereign has been built in time. I'm not visionary like you. I cannot see that far out. I don't get clarity until I try something. I'm like, nope, that's not right. Try something. Okay, yes, that's right. And that I think is where our mismatch was, right? And so
Mhm.
when you trust the energetics of not only yourself, but of the other person, that she knows what's best for her and I know what's best for me, and we had a mismatch, and that's okay, right? That's okay. I want people to live in their highest alignment. And that's the beauty about sovereign is I want people to live in their sovereignty. And so if there is a mismatch with how we do things, that's okay. Go do what you love. Like I want you to be happy in life. And that's how the team works now, right? If for people who know human design, I have a manifestor, two generators, and a projector on the team. We're all very different and we all have different strengths. But because we know that about each other, and maybe we'll all get our numerology and our leadership blueprints done so that we know, because the team's only getting bigger. Um, but because we know this about each other, our expectations of each other are different, right? And that's where it comes into play because you can have more compassion for somebody. Like, for example, if I'm expecting somebody to be detail oriented and it is literally not in their blueprint to be detail oriented, that is a mismatch in my leadership style, right?
Mhm.
That job might not
Absolutely.
be the best thing for them, right? And so that's what this whole internal program is for, is to help leaders and employees work together for our strengths and for the productivity and cohesiveness of running a business, right?
Absolutely. And I think the last thing that I would say about that is the whole idea. This is not a personality test. This isn't like you answer a series of questions and it's a point in time. This literally gives you, hey, here's what could be happening. Let's shine light on it. Now make your move. This is about growth.
Mhm.
This is about expansion. This isn't about, oh, I'm labeled this. And so, like, I'm an expressive motivator. And then all of a sudden you're critiquing yourself because you're not motivating people. That is not the point. We are not going down that rabbit hole. The point is to empower, especially as leaders in, I'm thinking in the corporate world or in, in your magazine space, you want to be the leader that allows for space for folks to be authentically themselves. And we cannot do that unless we are aware of how they operate, how they see themselves, how
Yeah.
they treat other people, how they work together, how they communicate, all of these things, which will go into way more depth as we get through the rest of these episodes.
I love this so much. Okay, if you are enjoying this conversation, definitely like, share, subscribe, comment below. Cass is also in our community, community.sovereign-magazine.com. All her details are in the show notes to follow her, and we will see you on the next one.
Thank you.